now, so people who do watch later can do that. Fantástico. Buenos días. ¿Cómo están ustedes? ¿Está bien? ¿Bien?
Está bien.
¿Bien? Ok. Fantástico. Me alegro muchísimo. Okay, we are going to do two things, I hope, today. I'm going to work that whole verb thing really, really hard because it's a work in progress. It is a job that takes a very long time to master and get good at. And we'll see examples, see that you can. Ooh, aquí viene Pat. Oh, Pat's coming in. You know, Pat's going to be here. Fantastico. Okay, so mainly it's going to be a verb day, mainly regular verbs, although I do want to get a little bit into one irregular verb. I'm going to try real hard to make enough time for it, because that will be important, the verb ir. So, okay, also I'm going to have a recommendation on a little reading thing that you can do in the hiatus and the time off between now and fall, if you plan on doing some reading. And actually I need to look at that first. I think we're going to look at that first.
Marilyn, do we need another textbook for the part 2?
Ay, buena pregunta. Good question. I'm going to say it this way. This is a book that usually the people have as a reference. And I won't necessarily go through it step by step, but it's very helpful. And I'll send you the link on what it looks like on Amazon. It's called Easy Spanish Step by Step. And mainly we use it as a reference tool. For you guys, it will be a vocabulary builder as well. It is super helpful. It's got lots of generic vocabulary stuff, not just verbs, but vocabulary building. It reviews ser and estar. It talks to you about all kinds of little words in between, like adverbs and adjectives, and what all of those mean, and why are they important, what do you need to know about them, all that good stuff. But I will send you a link of what it looks like online as well. The one thing I do recommend that people do a lot of is to do reading, and I'm looking through here. Here we go. I'm going to share a screen with you so that we get this out of the way quickly. Reading is a way that a lot of people pick up vocabulary very quickly, because it becomes vocabulary telling a story in context. There is a series of little books. They can be gotten through this website, which is TPRS Books. However, they're also available through Amazon. Amazon can probably redirect you to a lot of secondhand bookstores, which would mean it was a lot of high school kids getting ready the book after they're done with class, and they might be available even cheaper on a onesie twosie kind of basis here. This has a lot of books, so I would not recommend that you go and just get anything, because some of them are going to be at a higher level, some of them at it's going to be a Goldilocks thing. There's going to be the just right. And I'm going to show you a just right level for people at your stage. And there are actually a couple of them, but we're going to go with this one. Wow, where'd it go? ¿A dónde va? Momentito. I'm looking for the right. Aquí. Here we go. El escape cubano. This would be the story I would recommend you start with, and it is pure storytelling reading El Escape Cubano, which means what it looks like, Cuban escape. When they say novel, novela, we're talking, these are super skinny, like they're this size. They're that size, literally. They're really super skinny. The nice thing about these little novelas is that they do two things. Number one, they do high repetition. So for somebody like me, if I were reading this for pleasure, would not cut it because it repeats things over and over and over again. And it repeats things so that it starts to get what the vocabulary means ingrained in your gray matter. So it does high repetition to help you remember vocabulary. It'll take one verb like dice, which means he says or she says, and it'll repeat it over and over in the context of the story. He says this, she says that, the friend says this. So the repetition done in the context of a story helps you remember what the words mean. And it shows you how words link together. So in other words, when you see not just dice, but le dice as a two-word combo, the glossary in the back will have le dice, a two-word combo, as a dictionary entry, so that you know, why are they using these two words together? What do they mean? So these little stories do high repetition. They have a small glossary in the back, a little dictionary. And what happens is, as you read a word combo and you're like, I don't know what this means, and I can't figure it out from context, you real quickly flip to the back. Instead of going to a great big dictionary this thick, then you get back to the story. By that time, you forgot what the heck is going on with the story. You flip real quickly to the back, you get the meaning of that little phrase or that little word, you go right back, boom, you don't forget, you don't lose your train of thought with the story. So you can apply the definition real fast, real quickly, and pick up the thread of the story again. What I typically do with the next level class is I have people reading all different books, and I always open class with, so you read chapter 1, whichever book, because people will be reading different books depending on their level. What did you come up with out of there? Was like, I looked this up, but I still don't quite get what it means. So you can ask me what a string of words together means, and we do a little quick mini lesson on that, just explain it and move on. So I really highly recommend this, getting this little book, and go see wherever you can get it cheapest. Really, seriously, that's the best way to do it. Amazon or TPS books or some kind of used bookseller or whatever. It is a great way for you to build a lot of vocabulary within the context of a story. Okay, kind of like the Dick and Jane books, yeah, of Spanish. Dick and Jane, was that it? Yeah, when we were kids, something like that, Dick and Jane. Okay, all right. So that's what I could recommend. I will send you links to what this stuff looks like online. I'm going to start off with, hopefully you watched these two videos by Danny at Language Tutor. He did a video on Ar Verbs where he has this little chart, right? And he shows you the endings of verbs and just Ar verbs. And then he has this other one where he shows you Ir verbs and a bunch of Ir verbs and what they mean. And we're going to play around with that today. I'm just trying to get to his chart here. Oh, yeah, like right there, so that you see what it looks like. And remember, ER and IR verbs are going to largely, for the most part, share endings, share conjugation endings, those little verb suffixes that we stick on the back of a verb to tell us who is doing an action. I'm going to point out, but very, very briefly, he also showed you something he called a boot or a shoe. And if you didn't quite get that, or if you kind of glossed over it or forgot it, I'll send you the link for this again. This will become important later on as you get to more different kinds of verbs. Ir and Ir verbs are going to share the same kind of endings. Ars don't. Ars largely have lots and lots of endings that have as in them, right? And Ir verbs share a lot of endings that have the letter E, A sound in a lot of them. But Ers and Irs diverge when we get to nosotros conjugations. Nosotros conjugations, Ir goes off and does its own thing. And it takes the I from the IR and it uses an emos ending. And the reason we got that boot is anything outside of that boot, not within the shoe or boot, but outside the boot, Ir verbs are going to do something different for nosotros, for vosotros. So unless you're going to Spain, you won't need that vosotros piece. But the nosotros piece we all need. So Ir verbs will share endings all the time with Er verbs, but they'll differ with nosotros and then vosotros endings. Anybody have a question on something in those videos or something that didn't quite make sense to you? Or that sounded weird or odd or none? Make sense? We can dig in and kind of start to apply that. Okay, so up until this time, you've had verbs that were irregular, verbs that had a lot of forms that had to be memorized. And that is because they don't follow that nice pattern that you saw in the charts that Danny gave us. So we're going to take a look at two aspects we need to know about Ar verbs. We're going to start with the Ar verbs because it's a big category. And I'll send you this so you don't need to write anything down. It's actually bigger. Okay, I will send you the link to this. We're going to work off some of these. As important, just as important as knowing how to conjugate a verb is what the baseline verb, which we call an infinitive, what the basic verb infinitive means, right? Because that's the vocab piece of this. The vocab piece is that we need to know what hablar means, what viajar means, what caminar means, okay? So we need to know what all those infinitives, the basic verb forms mean. And then we just take off the AR and we add on endings to tell who is doing an action. Okay, so for AR verbs, well, really for all these verbs, AR, ER, and IR, the yo form always gets the O ending, right? O. For AR verbs, tu verb, if you're talking to somebody using tu, it gets as as an ending. If you're talking about one human being, it gets just the naked vowel by itself, the a ending, okay? A they group, more than one person, gets an ending, and nosotros will be amos, and that mos thing will carry through to the other conjugations, right? Because you'll keep seeing mos for nosotros. It's just that the vowel in front of that mos changes. So if we talk here, hablar es to talk or to speak, okay? ¿Cómo se dice? I'm talking about these two people. ¿Cómo se dice they're talking? How do I change hablar to indicate that more than one person is doing this and I'm not in the group?
Hablan.
Hablan. Hablan. Hablan. Ellos hablan. Ellos hablan de sus clases. Ellos hablan de, meaning of or about, hablan de sus clases. They're talking about their classes. Ellos hablan de sus amigos. They're talking about their friends. Ellos hablan español. Ellos hablan italiano. Ellos hablan inglés, right? We fill in our other information, you know, what they're speaking or what they're talking about later on. But hablan, if I were speaking, I would have to change that verb to
Hablo.
hablo. Muy bien, hablo. Hablo español, hablo francés un poco. Hablo alemán, German un poco. Hablo inglés, hablo español. Muy bien. Vale, magnífico. If I put myself in a group, the nosotros form will become
Hablamos.
hablamos. Hablamos aquí, we're talking here. Hablamos aquí en la clase. Hablamos aquí. ¿Bien? Hablamos aquí. Ok. Vale, magnífico. Viajar. Viajar es ir a un lugar. Viajar es to travel. Okay? To take a voyage. Think of voyage because it almost looks like viajar. It starts with a B chica. Viajar es to travel. To travel. Entonces, yo
Viajo.
viajo, tú
Viajas.
viajas, una persona, María, Ángela, Luis, José, una persona.
Viajamos.
Viaja, if it's one person, viaja. Luis viaja, José viaja, Alejandro viaja, Luisa viaja, Mariana viaja, right? We can fill any name in there. Also, usted is going to share that same form, viaja. Usted always shares the same kind of conjugation as talking about one human being, okay? Nosotros
Viajamos.
viajamos, and we'll touch the amos there. Viajamos, viajamos, muy bien. Viajamos, we travel. Viajamos, viajamos a Europa, we're traveling to Europe. Viajamos a Mexico. Bien, okay. Now, if I talk about more than one person, it won't be viajo, viajas, viaja, viajamos. It'll be more than one person.
Viajan.
Viajan, viajan, okay? So, ellos, they, ellas, an all-gal group, any combination of human beings, as long as I'm not in the group, is viajan. And ustedes, ustedes shares the ellos, they form, just like usted shares the one-person form. So, ustedes viajan, María viaja. María y José viajan. Bien, ok. Vale, magnífico. Caminar. Caminar es
To walk.
to walk. There are two verbs actually in Spanish that mean to walk. Caminar is, I would say, a little more common in Mexico. There is another one. Actually, I'll put the other one in here so that you know what it is. Andar is another verb that also means to walk, and everybody who lives everywhere knows both of those verbs. And they're both regular for present tense, so we can use them. We're going to practice, however, with caminar. Caminar. Remember the old, oh wow, this is really old. You Shelley's won't remember this. The old truck made by Chevy, El Camino. El Camino as a noun means a road. People would walk on a road. El Camino can also mean a road, a roadway, but the yo form is camino, right? And we punch the second to last syllable, camino. Tú, la forma de tú.
Caminas.
Caminas, okay. Una persona, one person. Conchita, Conchita camina, right? But if Conchita's got her friend Mariana with her, Conchita y Mariana
Caminan.
caminan, right? Okay, y nosotros, I put myself in a group and I have other people with me, it becomes
Caminamos.
caminamos, caminamos, caminamos. Bien, fantástico. Ok, hablar, viajar, to travel, caminar, to walk, escuchar, escuchar, to listen to listen to, not to hear, to listen to. There's a different verb for hear, just like we have hearing and listening. In Spanish, they have hearing and listening. And the listening verb is escuchar. And the word or the idea of to is built into this. So I don't actually need the word to. I just need the escuchar, right? Yo escucho, tú escuchas. La chica rubia, the blonde girl, como aquí en la foto, la chica rubia escucha la música, ¿bien? Nosotros escuchamos y las chicas o los chicos o ustedes escuchan. Escuchan. Okay, bien. We punch the second to the last syllable. Escuchan. Bien. Comprar. Comprar es dar dinero y tomar un producto. Comprar means to buy. Okay. Escuchar, to listen to, comprar, to buy. So the verb is going to tell the whole story. By taking off the AR and sticking on an ending, I'm going to tell who is doing that, all rolled into one verb. And I don't even have to say yo, I can just say compro. Compro, I'm buying stuff. Compro cosas en la tienda, I'm buying things at the store. Compro cosas en la farmacia. Compro champú en la farmacia. I'm buying shampoo at the pharmacy. Compro medicina en la farmacia. I'm buying medicine at the pharmacy. Compro. La forma de tú, compras. Compras. See? We have to hear that S at the end. Compras. A form to say one person is doing it. Compra. Compra. La mujer, the woman, la mujer compra productos en la farmacia. Bien. If more than one person is shopping, it becomes compran. They're buying. Compran. If I am with other people, I have somebody with me. Mi familia y yo compramos productos en la tienda at the store. Okay. Compramos productos en la tienda. Bien. Ok. Otro verbo. Llegar. Llegar, to arrive. Llegar, to arrive. And we also use it in English to say get to a place. Like they're getting to the airport. They're getting to the train station, right? They get to the office at 8 o'clock. We can talk about where people are arriving or getting to a place. We can talk about when they get to a place by adding on extra information. But the verb by itself will tell who is doing it. So, la forma de yo. Let's see if you guys can take this one. Llegar. Yo
Llego.
llego. And that's it. That's all you need to say. You don't even need the yo. Llego. Llego al aeropuerto. Llego a las 9. I'm getting there at 9. Llego con mis amigos. I'm arriving with my friends. Okay. Tú, la forma de tú.
Llegas.
Llegas, llegas. Muy bien. Llegas. You're getting there. To say that one person is doing it, we just need the naked vowel and it's an AR verb. So it becomes
Llega.
llega. Muy bien. Yo, and I have people with me, it becomes nosotros.
Llegamos.
Llegamos, muy bien, llegamos. And we punch the A of the amos. Llegamos, bien. And if I talk about more than one person doing this, like all these guys are arriving on the plane, ellos
Llegan.
llegan, bien. So whenever you hear a ne at the end, it means they're doing it, right? Mos at the end means we are doing it. And S at the end of it is asking you if you are doing it or telling that you are doing it, right? Bien, okay, let's look at three more, tres más.
No.
Usar is a nice cognate. It looks like use, and that's what it means. It means to use. Usar. Yo
Uso.
uso. Yo uso la computadora. ¿Ok? Bien. Tú usas una vieja computadora. Wow, that's a really old looking computer in that picture. You use an old computer. ¿Sí? La mujer, the woman, la mujer usa la computadora. Nosotros usamos la computadora. And if I talk about more than one person, los empleados, the employees, los empleados usan la computadora en la oficina. They use the computer in the office. Okay. Vale. Bien. Dos más. Bailar. Bailar es con música. Es caminar con música. It's walking with music. Okay. Bailar, to dance. To dance. Bailar. And we can't pronounce this like bail. A lot of people, we have that English word, you bail out of a bad situation. You bail out the boat. If it's filling with water, it's not bail. We have to look at that A and the I next to each other as two sounds that are going to slam together. I. Bailar. To dance. Bailar. So the yo form will be bailo. Tu form will be bailas. A form to talk about just one person will be baila. A form for nosotros will be bailamos. Bailamos el tango. Las dos personas, the two people that you see in this picture, las dos personas bailan. They are dancing. Bien? Okay. So we're going to wrap up with this verb, pagar. Pagar, to pay. Pagar, to pay. And pagar is a wonderful regular verb. So just by hearing the verb form, we know who's doing it. Yo will be, I'm paying.
Pago.
Pago. You're paying. Tu form. Pagas. He's paying or she's paying or formal you are paying will be
Pagar.
Paga. We're paying. Pagamos. And I'm talking a bunch of people. Oh, those people sitting at the table, they're paying.
Pagan.
Also, ustedes uses pagan. Bien, pagan, okay? We can put this all together into a question. And here's a question you may hear in a store. ¿Cómo paga usted? How are you paying? This is something you'll hear in restaurants, in stores. Anytime you go into a public place where you pay admission in a theater, you know, you're paying to get into a show, you're paying to get into a sporting event. ¿Cómo paga usted? And we're going to throw in this interrogative as well. ¿Cómo asks how. So not just are you paying? Sí, pago. Yeah, I'm paying. ¿Cómo paga usted? How are you paying? Are you paying in cash or are you paying with a card? Con efectivo. Con efectivo means with cash. Con tarjeta means with a card. Probably credit, but could be a debit. All they care is that they're running a card through the machine as opposed to using cash, right? ¿Cómo paga usted? ¿Con efectivo o con tarjeta? With cash or with a card? ¿Cómo se dice? I'm paying with a card. How would we answer that question? ¿Cómo paga usted?
Pago una tarjeta.
Pago con una tarjeta. I'm paying with, and we need that little word with, con. Pago con tarjeta. I'm paying with a card. I'm paying with cash. Pago con efectivo, right? If there are two of you sitting at a restaurant table, the waiter might ask, how are you guys paying? How will we change this question, ¿Cómo paga usted?, to have it reflect a waiter talking to like 2 or 3 people sitting at a table? He's going to have to talk not to one you, but to maybe this many yous, right? How is he going to ask that question? Instead of ¿Cómo paga usted?, it'll become
¿Cómo pagan ustedes?
¿Cómo pagan ustedes? How are you guys paying? ¿Cómo pagan ustedes? Okay, he'll want to know, is everybody paying separately? Is one person paying? You know, one person in the group, in that group of 3 pipes up and says, pago yo, I'm paying. Okay, or pagamos, pagamos, we're paying. Pagamos con efectivo, we're paying with cash. Pagamos con efectivo. Okay, so you'll hear people morph these with questions and question words. Let's change some of these into questions. Let's change them up a little bit. Let's put them into context. Oh, y perdón, pardon me. I need to get my Spanish keyboard up. A ver, bien, because I don't want a plus sign with my upside down question mark. Okay. ¿Cómo se dice? Do you speak Spanish? We're going to conjugate this verb hablar. And we're going to put it into context of a question. Do you speak Spanish? It's going to be a yes, no kind of answer, but we're going to ask the question. Do you speak Spanish?
¿Habla español?
¿Habla español? ¿Habla español? You can choose to plug the word usted in there. ¿Habla usted español? You can choose to ignore the word usted. Either way is good. If you're talking to the person, looking them in the eye, they might assume you'll just omit the word usted, but you can plug it in. ¿Habla usted español? If you're talking to a little kid, ¿hablas español? To a little kid, you won't use usted. Talk to little kids using tú, right? Por ejemplo, habla usted. I'll put the usted in here. ¿Habla usted español? ¿Habla usted español? And the way we'll answer that question won't be with habla. We have to change it when we answer the question. So when we answer the question, ¿habla usted español? It becomes
Hablo español.
Hablo español. Hablo un poco español. You might say, no hablo muy bien. I don't speak super well. No hablo muy bien. Hablo un poco. Hablo un poco. Bien? ¿Vale? Good. Okay. Viajar. Let's take viajar and turn it into a question. Let's turn it into a question that asks where you're traveling. And I have to have this next word which I'm going to attach to the where word. ¿A dónde? To where? Literally to where. And I roll it together into one word. ¿Dónde means where, but ¿a dónde is when I'm using movement with it. That little word that I attach in front of donde says to where. Somebody asks, and they're going to ask you in a familiar way. ¿A dónde viajas? ¿A dónde viajas? ¿A dónde viajas? They're asking you where you're traveling. ¿A dónde viajas? How might we answer a question like that? ¿A dónde viajas?
Viajo a México.
Viajo a México. Viajo a California. Viajo a Nueva York. Viaja al Canadá. Viajo a Argentina. So we plug in our information, right? A guy working at La Aduana, a guy working at customs has two of you and a spouse, or you and your family, because maybe you have little kids with you, or you and your grandkids. ¿A dónde viajan ustedes? Where are you guys traveling to? ¿A dónde viajan ustedes? How would we answer that kind of question? ¿A dónde viajan ustedes? Can it just be yo for the answer?
Oh.
It's got to be more than yo, but yo's in the group. So when we ask, or when we answer that kind of question, ¿A dónde viajan ustedes? We're going to morph that verb a different way. It's going to become what?
Viajamos.
Viajamos. And now we're going to tell the place. Viajamos a Cancún. Viajamos a Cozumel. Viajamos a Puerto Rico. Viajamos a la República Dominicana. Maybe not right after the earthquake, but you know what I mean. Okay. Viajamos a Puerto Vallarta. Viajamos a Cabo San Lucas. Viajamos a. Bien. Okay. If you listened, if you went back and listened, remember that little video that asked, ¿Cómo llego a? How do I get to a place? How to ask a question, how do I get? And one of the questions he asked was, ¿Cuántos minutos? And he used caminando, but we're going to change this a little bit. We're going to change it into caminas. ¿Cuántos minutos caminas? How many minutes do you walk? How many minutes are you walking? ¿Cuántos minutos caminas? How might you answer a question like that? ¿Cuántos minutos caminas? We're going to have to say, I'm walking, and we're going to give a time limit. But we got to start with the I'm walking part first.
So camino.
Camino, and then we're going to give a number.
Okay, that's why I'm hesitating. So if I want to,
Okay.
if I want to say 10 minutes,
Okay.
it's días, minutos.
Minutos. Camino 10 minutos. Camino 30 minutos. Camino 1 hora. Camino 2 horas. Camino 15 minutos. Okay, so we use all of these things to, all these verbs we use to communicate when we ask each other questions. So people will conjugate these verbs to ask you questions. They'll conjugate these verbs to talk about themselves, to talk about you, to talk about any other human being around. That idea. Ar verbs kind of make sense. See?
Yes,
You
see,
have to see a lot of examples to get familiar with it. Pardon, we're gonna come back to that in a minute because eventually we're gonna mix these around. Okay, Er and Ir verbs are gonna follow this similar pattern. The good thing is yo always uses the same thing, whether it's an Ar verb or an Er verb or an Ir verb. Okay, so yo is always the o ending, always. So that one is the no-brainer of the conjugation table. But now with Er verbs and Ir verbs, they're going to share the same endings, except when they get to nosotros. So they're going to share a lot of endings that have the e sound in them, just like Ar verbs have lots of a sounds in their conjugations. Er verbs have lots of e, and Ir verbs too have lots of e sounds in their conjugations. Okay, and Ir verbs will go off and do their own thing when it gets to nosotros, but just for the nosotros part. So, o for yo endings, right? Es, es for tu endings. E, just the naked vowel by itself for talking about one human being, and the usted form. Okay. Ellos or ellas, ustedes, more than one person. En, okay. Nosotros is where they're going to go off and do their own separate things. Er verbs are going to get hemos, but they still have that mos. It's just that it's hemos. Ir verbs are going to go off and do their own thing and take the e from the ir sound. E, imos, imos. Okay, so let's take a look at some typical Er verbs and typical Ir verbs. This verb gets done to death, but we use this verb a lot to say that, you know, you're eating something. Comer. Comer, to eat. Comer, to eat. Yo como. Tú comes. Él come. Ella come. Usted come. Nosotros comemos, and we punch the E before the mos, right? Comemos. Okay. Bien. Ellos comen. Okay. Now we've got leer. And we've got a diphthong. We've got two E's right next to each other. A diphthong is anytime you have two vowels right next to each other. And because these two vowels are identical, we're just going to drag out the E sound. Okay. So it won't be le, er. It'll be leer. Not leer. Leer would be one E, right? Leer. So we just drag out the S sound longer to indicate that there are two of those E's next to each other. Leer. But when I take off the ER from leer, we've still got that first le, right? That's the first half of that verb. So leo, I read. Leo, leo un libro. Leo un libro. Leo el periódico. Leo el periódico. Quizás, maybe, quizás leo una tarjeta. Leo una tarjeta. I read a card. Leo una tarjeta. Leo, leo. Tú lees. We've got the double E. We have to drag it out again. Tú lees. Él lee. Una persona lee. Ellos leen. They read. But nosotros leemos. Leemos. Bien? Okay. We've got two verbs that mean understand. Actually, I'll be honest with you. This verb entender is the more common of the two. However, it is not a regular verb. So that little boot or shoe that you saw Danny use when he talked about ER and IR verbs, entender belongs to that category of verbs that are what we call boot or shoe verbs. They have an irregular pattern in the middle, which we're not going to get into yet. So it's not entiendo, it's entiendo. It's got a vowel change in the middle. So we're not going to practice with the entender part, okay, even though it's the more commonly used word for understand. We're going to take this one instead that's underlined, because this verb is perfectly regular and doesn't have the funny like double vowel thing in the middle. Comprender will be a regular verb, and we're going to practice with this one. So if you want to tell somebody, I don't understand, we're going to use this verb with a no in front of it, right? I don't understand is no comprendo. No comprendo. No comprendo. Right? We take the ER off of comprender. We've got comprend. Comprendo. Comprendo. Understand. Ah, sí, comprendo. Yes, I understand. Ay, no, no comprendo. No comprendo. No comprendo. Often we'll use lo siento with this. Lo siento means I'm sorry. Lo siento, pero no comprendo. I'm sorry, but I don't understand. Lo siento, I'm sorry, pero no comprendo. But I don't understand, pero no comprendo. Comprendo, tú comprendes, with an S at the end. El chico comprende, comprende. Los chicos, if I make it more than one, comprenden. And nosotros comprendemos, comprendemos. Muy bien. Okay. We're going to take a look at 3 more ER verbs. ER is the next biggest category. AR verbs are the biggest category by far. ER would be the next biggest. It has the next most plentiful number of verbs. Here's another common ER verb that is a regular ER verb. Vender, and think of a vending machine. Vender, to sell. Vender. We just take off the ER to conjugate it. Vendo. Vendo. Tú vendes. El hombre, the man, el hombre vende. El hombre vende el carro. The man sells the car. El hombre vende el carro. Los hombres venden frutas. The men sell fruits. Los hombres venden. And if I am selling something and I have people with me, it's nosotros form. Vendemos. Vendemos. Okay. Let's see if we can figure out responder. Responder is a cognate. It looks like respond. That's what it means to respond. Yo respondo. Tú. Can you give me the tú form?
Respondes.
Respondes. Respondes. We talk about one person responding. It becomes
Responde.
muy bien, responde. If I talk about two people responding, it becomes
Responding.
responden. And if we are all responding, it becomes the nosotros form.
Respondamos.
And it won't be an amos. Cuidado, careful.
Respondamos.
Respondemos. Respondemos. So make sure when you have that form, you don't pronounce it as respondamos. It's respondemos. Respondemos. Ir verbs all have e in their conjugation as well, except for Joe. Respondemos. Respondemos. Respondamos. Now, the reason I say this, Roger, respondamos, there is a word respondamos. Uh-oh. Respondamos is a command, like let's respond, but it's not talking about a fact of what's happening right now. So just know, making sure you've got that vowel correct is a thing. Es importante. It is important. And we'll look at that. We'll look at that with a different verb soon. Okay.
Marilyn, how do you say that again?
Respondemos. Respondemos. Not a, but e. Respondemos. Respondemos. Okay. And we're going to get some random verbs to look at really, really soon. Beber. Beber means to drink. Beber can be used when we talk about drinking milk, drinking water, but a lot, it's used with alcohol. A lot. Doesn't have to, but a lot. So, Joe, ¿cómo se dice? I drink wine.
Bebo vino.
Bebo vino. Bebo vino. I drink wine. Some people don't drink alcohol at all. They might say no bebo vino. Bebo cerveza. Bebo agua. No bebo vino. No bebo vino. Okay. Bebo vino. ¿Cómo se dice? You drink wine. To a friend.
Bebes.
Bebes. To make it talking about just one person. Bebe vino. To make it more than one person. Beben vino. To make it we're drinking wine right now, it becomes bebemos vino. Bebemos vino. Okay? Bien? Okay. So we've got comer, leer, comprender, vender, to sell something, responder, beber. Because they're ER verbs, there's going to be a lot of this letter, and a lot of those endings and a lot of those conjugations that we use. Built in, okay? IR verbs are the smallest category, the smallest percentage of all the verbs. If we had a big pie chart and took all of the verbs and put them in a pie chart, AR verbs, ER verbs, IR verbs would take the tiniest sliver because there are fewer of them. That does not mean they're not important. It just means there are fewer of them. So, there are a lot of verbs that in IR that might tend to be kind of irregular. So we have to limit the kinds of verbs we're going to use. Here are three very, very common IR verbs that are regular, that are easy to use. IR verbs are going to conjugate exactly like ER verbs, except for nosotros. Yay. So the only thing to remember is the nosotros form. So get some mos. but it's going to take the vowel of the infinitive it is, which is an IR infinitive. It's going to take that vowel, the E sound, the E sound for the nosotros form. So instead of an E sound with an emos, it's going to get an E sound with emos. So we're going to go with the one area where IR verbs are different from ER verbs, because IR verbs are going to conjugate just like ER verbs, except for that yo or nosotros form. So the nosotros form, we're going to practice on all three of these verbs first. Vivir, we live, will become.
Viva.
Viven would mean they live. I'm talking about more than one person, but I'm not in the group. Viven is a good verb form. It means they, a couple of people. Okay? Or ustedes. But the nosotros form will become what?
Vivimos.
Vivimos. Vivimos. Vivimos en Estados Unidos. Vivimos en Estados Unidos. We live in the United States. Okay? Abrir means to open. Think of abracadabra, opening something up. Abrir is to open. Okay. Abro, I open. Tú abres. Una persona abre. Dos personas abren. But when I get to the nosotros form, it has to go to that E sound. And it becomes what? We're opening is?
Abrimos.
Abrimos. Abrimos.
Marilyn, what is one person? Again, could you
So
say that
one
again?
person form will be abre. Abre. One person doing it, it's going to behave like the ER verbs do. Abre. Yo abro. Tú abres. El hombre abre. The man opens. La mujer abre. The woman opens. Usted abre. You open. The formal you. Los chicos abren la puerta de la escuela. Los chicos abren. The kids open up. More than one of them, it becomes abren. Los chicos abren la puerta de la escuela. Las personas abren las ventanas. En julio, the people open their windows. In July, abren, they open. But nosotros goes back to that E sound of abrir. Abrimos. Abrimos. Okay, bien?
Yeah.
A ver. So IR verbs will only diverge, take their own course from those ER verbs when they go to the nosotros form. Otherwise, they're going to follow the ER verb endings, all the other forms through. Escribir. We know that a scribe is somebody who writes. Okay. The word scribe in English comes from an old Latin thing, the same thing that escribir comes from. Escribir, to write. To write. Escribir. Escribir una carta, you know, escribir can be what you do at your keyboard. Escribir un email. Okay. Yo escribo. Tú escribes. La secretaria escribe. The secretary writes. Los estudiantes escriben. The students write. But now when it goes to nosotros, it's going to have to go back to that E sound from escribir. And nosotros, we are writing becomes
Escribimos.
escribimos. Escribimos. Escribimos. Okay. Bien. Okay. Ooh, and I forgot to take these off. Okay, we're gonna see if you can conjugate some of these. Ooh, I gotta quickly take them off. And we'll type them in, because you know what, honestly, you're not gonna remember all of those automatically. Once you don't see it, it becomes, where was that? Kind of hard to cheat when you start mixing them all up. So let's. Should have done this before. Perdón, perdón. Okay. And we're going to mix these all up, Vale, magnífico, magnífico. And we're doing one example here. Beber yo. So if we take this infinitive and then I give you a subject, we're going to see if you can make it into the right conjugation, meaning the right form, telling the story of who does that action. If I tell you, I want to say yo, I am doing the drinking, it's bebo, which means I drink or I'm drinking. Vivir, tú. We want to say you're living. You're living somewhere, or you live somewhere. ¿Cómo se dice? How do we say that?
¿Tú vives?
Vives. Vives for tú, right? If it were usted, it would be vive, okay? Comprender, usted. We want to say you understand, but a formal you, not the tú you. We want to say you understand. ¿Cómo se dice?
Comprende.
Comprende. Comprende. Comprende, okay? We want to use leer to read. We want to say you guys are reading. We're going to take leer, we're going to change it. It becomes what?
¿Leen?
Leen. Leen, and that's all you have to say. You can say it as ustedes leen to be more specific, but just leen automatically tells somebody, oh, a bunch of people are doing this. Okay? Vivir, nosotros. We want to say the idea of we are living in a certain place or we live in a certain place.
Vivimos.
Vivimos. Magnífico. Okay. We're going to change this up since you saw an answer. We're going to responder, which means to respond or to answer. We want to say my friend answers. My friend is answering. Mi amigo?
Responde.
Responde. Responde. Responde. Mi amigo responde. You're talking to a little kid and you're going to say, hey, oh, what are you eating? You must be eating something. You're eating. We want to change that verb, comer, to say you're doing it. And we're going to make it the tú, you.
¿Tú comes?
Comes. Comes. And you won't even need to say the word tú, because everybody hears comes, they automatically know it means tú. Okay, we want to say I read or I'm reading. We're going to take leer, we're going to change it to say I'm doing this.
Leo.
Leo. I do have to keep that first letter E. I have to keep the first letter E because I only take off the ER, that last E. So I keep that first E. Leo. Leo. Okay, it's not the English word Leo, the name, it's Leo. I'm reading, okay? We want to say you guys are selling. You guys are selling, or you guys sell something. Ustedes
Venden.
Venden. Ustedes venden. Ustedes venden. We want to say the tourist is opening the door to a shop, maybe. El turista. And he is doing this action. He is opening or he opens. It means the same thing. El turista
Abre.
abre. Abre. Bueno. We want to say, yeah, sure. We understand. We understand.
Comprendimos.
Comprendemos. Comprendemos. If we want to say we don't understand, we just put a no in front of it. Anytime you want to say, make a sentence negative, we just put a no in front of it, right? No venden, they don't sell. No abre, he's not opening. No leo, I'm not reading. No comprendemos, we don't understand. If you want to make it a negative idea, you just put a no in front of it. Let's use aprender. Aprender means to learn. Aprender means to learn. We want to say the students are learning. They are learning. Los estudiantes
Aprenden.
aprenden. Los estudiantes aprenden. Bien. And we want to say, I'm writing something.
Escribo.
Escribo. Escribo. Bien. Ok. Fantástico. Let's take just a quick minute to talk about one thing. And Roger, it was good that you made this mistake because we learned from these things. Having these vowels, pronouncing them properly is important because these conjugations use specific verb endings, right? Like, let's take hablar as an example. Hablar. Hablo, hablas, habla, hablamos. I'm going to skip the vosotros because we don't use that in Latin America. Hablan. It's important that we pronounce these ending, well, except for yo. Yo always gets the o ending, right? O. But in these other ones, it's always important that we make sure those are coming out as not a. These have to come out sounding like ah. Perdón, I'm going to show you why. Habla español. Mi amiga habla español y francés. Mi amiga habla español y francés. I cannot say that as mi amiga hable. I cannot say it as hable. I have to say this habla. This is important because that word hable actually does mean something. But it means that somebody may be talking to something called subjunctive or a command. So if somebody, let's say a teacher got mad at a student, students being lazy, students not listening, students just, goofing off. And the teacher says to that student, hey, not talking. Don't talk. They'll say it as a command. And you may say, no hable. Let's say you're in a theater. You're in a theater. And somebody sees, they've got some annoying person talking to them in a theater. They might say, no hable, por favor. No hable. No hable is a command. So this thing of pronouncing it as hable conveys a different idea. It can convey the idea of do it. Instead of just telling the story of, oh, she speaks only English. Habla solamente inglés. Habla just tells a fact. What is happening? No hable does not tell about a fact. It gives an order or it tells about something that may be happening, like quiero que él hable español. I want him to speak. So it goes into either what they call subjunctive, a world where you want something to happen, but you don't know if it is, or it goes into commands. So having that right vowel form is important. Habla or hablamos. Let's look again. If you change this a vowel from hablamos and you mispronounce it as hablemos, it's still a valid word. But instead of meaning hablamos, we're speaking right now, it means hablemos. Hey, let's speak. Oh, hablemos. Hablemos inglés porque estamos en Estados Unidos. Let's speak English. Hablemos becomes let's speak. It's a let's all of us do it, but it doesn't mean it's happening. It's like a we command. Hablemos. Hablemos un poco. Let's speak a little bit. But hablamos. So make sure you have the vowel right. So all I want you to know for right now is if you get this sound and you pronounce it as an there is a word that has that sound but it means something else. It turns it into an order. Hablemos means let's talk, not we speak. Okay? Bien?
Sí.
So what I'm trying to impress on you is those vowels that you learned way, way, way at the beginning are super important because they change, they shift the meaning of what will happen, okay, with all those specific verbs. Okay, a ver, let's take a look. Let's put it into a little bit different context here. Let's take a look here. Let's see if we can choose the right translation. Yo tomo. What does that mean? I drink or you drink?
I drink.
I drink. We're going to go from like super easy ideas to harder. Okay. Nosotros tomamos. And tomar can mean to drink and eat as well, right? Tomar is a really like versatile verb. So
You all drink.
Nosotros tomamos won't mean you all. It'll mean we. Amos is we, right? Amos is we. Nosotros tomamos is we drink. You all drink would be toman. Toman, with an N at the end. Toman. Okay? Usted cree. Cree means to believe or to think a certain way, to have an opinion. To have an opinion.
You believe?
You believe. Usted cree is you believe. Ustedes creen is
You all believe.
you all believe. Okay? You all believe. Okay, let's see if we can get a translation. Oh, it's going to use conversar. Conversar. Let's see if I can make this bigger. Sí, mejor, better. Conversar means to converse. And if you want to say you talk, which one of these will it be? Yo converso, usted conversa, nosotros conversamos, ustedes conversan.
Instead,
Usted converso.
Usted
Conversa.
conversa, yeah, to say one you, and it isn't, yeah, you talk, yeah, in English, that isn't clear if it's one you or two you, because we use you all the time, right? Usted conversa, it could be ustedes conversan if you talk to more than one you. But now we've got a you all. You all talk becomes
Ustedes
conversa.
conversan.
ustedes conversan. Ustedes conversan. I drink becomes which one of these?
Yo vivo.
Yo bebo, muy bien. We drink becomes
Nosotros bebemos.
nosotros bebemos. And we can drop the nosotros. They just put it in there so you're associating it with the right conjugation. You live. And this will mean one you.
Vive.
Vive. Usted vive, which can be said without the word usted, just vive. You all live.
Ustedes viven.
Viven. Ustedes viven. Okay. Let's now work our way up to the ending. Hablar. Nosotros or nosotras. Nosotras does have a feminine form. You don't really use it as often because you don't all that often have a feminine, all feminine group for we. Nosotros
Hablamos.
hablamos. Hablamos. Ustedes, you guys,
Hablan.
hablan. Okay. Now we're going to switch to comer. Yo
Como.
como. Como. You eat, and it's the polite you. Usted
Come.
come. Vivir, live, to live. You live. Usted
Vive.
vive. Vive, vive. We're going to have the e ending there because it's going to share the same kind of ending as if it were an ER verb. Vivir, for nosotros.
Vivimos.
Vivimos. Bien. You guys live. Ustedes
Viven.
viven. Viven. Muy bien. Okay. I'll give you the link to that so you can play around with that a little bit. Okay. I'll also give you the link for this. This shows you a table. It's got them all in straight lines so that they fit more compactly all together on the same screen. But it shows you AR verb, except for yo. Yo marches straight through with, yo ends in o, and o is the ending we use, right? No matter what kind of verb you have, o for an ending always means I'm doing it, right? But with AR verbs, we're getting lots of sounds in the endings. For ER and IR verbs, we're going to have sounds in the endings, except when we get to this nosotros one, right? Then it takes the E of the IR, ir, imos, okay? A ver, let's see if we can get some conjugations working here. Tú, conversar. You're conversing a little bit. Poco is a little bit.
Conversas.
Conversas. Ooh, is it not letting me type? Momento. Okay, yeah. It will not let me type in here. Tú conversas. I think normally you will be able to. I think because I enlarged it, it's not letting me in. Tú conversas. Sufrir means to suffer. Tú
Sufres.
sufres de los nervios means You're feeling really nervous. You're suffering from nerves, literally, but it means you're feeling super nervous. Sufres de los nervios. Okay. Una buena cena means a good dinner, a good supper. Okay. Preparar is a regular verb. It's an AR verb. So we can say you're preparing a good dinner. Tú
Preparas.
preparas una buena cena. Preparas una buena cena. Now it's a harder word to pronounce because you've got multiple syllables. Preparas. Tú preparas. Okay. Ustedes, you guys live in California. Ustedes viven en California. Ustedes viven en California. María, buscar means to look for, to seek something out. Maria's looking for Rosita. She's looking for a friend of hers, Rosita. Todo el día means all day long. María
Busca.
busca Rosita todo el día. María has been, she's looking for Rosita all day long. Todo el día, all day. Busca, she's looking for. Rosa, entrar means to go into, to enter. And building is edificio. Rosa is entering the building. Rosa entra el edificio. Rosa entra el edificio. Rosa is going into the building. Amanda y yo. Now it becomes we. And trabajar means to work. Amanda and I, we work at the hospital. Amanda y yo
Trabajamos.
trabajamos. Amanda y yo trabajamos en el hospital, okay? Andar means walk, like caminar means walk. Tú andas cada día. Cada día means every day. Cada día. Each and every day. Cada día, it just tells when. Tú andas cada día, you walk every day. Mandar means to send something. We're sending the book by mail. Por correo means by, we're putting in the post office. Okay. Nosotros mandamos, perfecto. Mandamos el libro por correo. We're sending the book by mail. We're putting it into the post office. You are, muchos recuerdos. Recuerdos can be souvenirs. We're going to take it as souvenirs for this. It can mean memories too. You're sending a lot of souvenirs. You're shipping off lots of souvenirs to family members. Tú mandas muchos recuerdos. Recuerdos are souvenirs. Mandas muchos recuerdos, okay? La señora Peña, and we're going to have preparar again. Preparar. And it's only one person. It's not yo, it's not nosotros, it's Mrs. Peña.
Preparas.
And it won't not. Prepara. Prepara. Why will we not have an S? Why will we not have an S on the end of this?
Because it's third person singular.
It's third person singular. We're talking about Señora Peña. We're not talking to her. We're talking about her. So it can't be the tú form. La señora Peña prepara una buena cena. María y Juan. And here is the verb firmar. Firmar means to sign. It's a step beyond saying writing. It means writing your name, signing, firmar. And we're talking about two people, María y Juan.
Firman.
Firman. And we should hear an N at the end. Firman. Firman la petición. Firman la petición. They're signing the petition. Bien. El hombre, we got preparar. Again, muchísima comida. Muchísima means lots. Muchísima comida is lots of food. El hombre, one person doing it.
Prepara.
Prepara. Prepara muchísima comida. He fixes tons of food. El hombre prepara muchísima comida. Romper means to break. To break something. Juguete is a toy. Las profesoras
Rompen.
rompen. Rompen means they're breaking the toy. Llevar means many, many things. Llevar can mean to wear something. Llevar can mean to carry something from one place to another. And in this case, it's going to mean you're taking something, and you're taking the dogs. You're taking the dogs to the park. So you're probably taking the dogs, putting them in the car, and then you're driving off to the park. Could mean you're walking with them, but you're probably putting them in the car and you're going to the dog park. Ustedes, and we're going to take llevar, to take. Ustedes llevan los perros al parque. Llevan los perros al parque. You guys are taking the dogs to the park. Discutir means to argue. I'm arguing about politics. Yo discuto de política. Desear means to desire. It is a fancier way of saying to want something. Yo
Deseo.
Deseo que la guerra termine. I want the war to end. Oh, remember when I said that habla has a form hable, but it means something that isn't really happening? If I say I want that the war should end, instead of termina, it becomes termine. It becomes what they call subjunctive. Don't worry about that yet. Deseo que la guerra termine. I want that the war should end. It isn't ended. I want it. That doesn't mean I'm going to get it. So termine is not termina, it's termine. Okay. You guys dance well. Ustedes
Bailan.
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 Bailan, muy bien. And almost everybody says bailan. It's something we have to unlearn. Bailan. Bailan, muy bien. Bailan, muy bien. Okay. And now we've got, it's going to be a nosotros. It's somebody y yo. Somebody y yo means it's nosotros. Oh, and it's an Ir verb. So it's going to do the imos thing. La profesora y yo
Sufrimos
de muchos dolores. We suffer from a lot of pains. Oh my, probably talking about some old decrepit person. Okay, so there you've got your little crash course with irregular verbs. I am going to give you the link to this page so you can go back and look, and it'll ask you to start a little quiz. So I'll give you the link so you can go back into that. I'll give you the link to this. That's the easier level of practice. Okay. If you want to go on, you can try this. This will tell you, let's talk about a little story. This is going to take, and this is only going to take Ar verbs. It'll take the Ar verbs that are off of this master list. So they give you like a word bank. And here's the word bank at the top. And they'll cue in the infinitive. And now you're going to have to use it like for yo here, for yo here, for yo here. And it'll ask you to conjugate all these verbs. And when you type them in, you can hit the correct button and it'll tell you how many of them you got right. So you can do that as a little self-check over our off class time in the next couple of weeks. Does it have 2 of these? I think it does, yes. It's got 2, and sometimes it will change the subject from yo to tu to talking about a group of people. So this will give you like a bunch of little verbs to practice with, and it gives you a word bank that you're going to work off of. So I'll give you links to all of those. Sound like a good plan? See?
Sí.
Bien. I wanted to get to Ir, but sadly, we have run out of time. So Ir will have to be for another time, but that's okay. Ir is an irregular verb, but I'll send you all the links to these so you can do some practicing on your own time. And bien, good enough?
Sí.
Bien. This is something that is a journey. Comfortably learning to use all these different verb forms takes a lot of time and a lot of practice. So if you think that you can get it in like 5 or 10 minutes, wow, felicitaciones, congratulations, because usually only people, not very many people can do that because we operate off of really only 2 conjugations in English. I walk, he walks. I understand, he understands. That's all we operate off of. So getting used to using all these different forms is a hurdle that is a difficult hurdle for English speakers, and we have to be thinking about it constantly as we speak. So if you feel like, gee, this is a lot of constant work, you're right. It is. That is the way that rolls. And it does take a lot of time and a lot of practice, which is why if you get the little book, El Escape Cubano, it'll automatically give you a little story to follow along and see how all those verbs run along and do different things to tell who is doing specific actions throughout the story. Bien?
Bien.
Magnifico. Okay, vale. That'll be it for now. Ahora.
Marilyn, when does the next class start? What's the date on it?
Does class start? Calendario, un momentito. I need to look that up myself. I believe it is the 2nd week of September. So let
Okay.
me pull up an actual calendar. And actually, I email everybody the week before anyway.
Oh,
So
great.
because, well, a lot of people travel and they go off places and, well, you forget because life gets busy. The next class should start on the 14th of December. Oh, and I see why it's coming that late, because the 7th of December is the day after Labor Day. And they're going to assume, Scottsdale is assuming a lot of people might be on the road going
Marilyn,
someplace for Labor Day.
is it Mondays or Tuesdays?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, excuse me. It is Mondays. Thank you, Roger. Gracias. It is Mondays. I was thinking because this is Tuesday. No, it is September 13th. Gracias. Thank you. It is Monday, September 13th. It will be a Monday, and that will be the first day.
And do you think it's still 9:30?
9:30, yes. See, it is 9:30 to 11 o'clock on Mondays. Perfecto. Perfect. That will be it. 9:30, ending at 11:30. And we're going to do lots of little breakout sessions. And I will probably take people who are in the smaller group to do a separate little activity that is an easier activity rather than throwing you in with the wolves. The wolves are the people who've done a little more practice. So you'll probably have a few sessions where will let you practice more at your own level, or I will probably go specifically into your group when we do small group practice. Bien?
Yeah.
Makes
Yeah.
sense? Okay, fantastico. If you have any other questions along the way between now and September 13th, send me a quick email. We're good to go.
Great,
Okay.
thank you.
Gracias. De nada, de nada. Es un placer. Es un placer. It is a pleasure. Espero que tengan una buena semana. I hope you all have a good week. And off the monsoon for now. ¿Sí? Bien? For a while. Por un poquito. Okay. Bueno, entonces nos vemos.
Gracias.
De
See you
nada.
soon.
De nada. Sí, sí. Nos vemos pronto. See you soon.